I've introduced other facts about World War II
Right.
that Americans don't know. So I shared the documentary, which I said everyone should watch this as a baseline because it threw me for a loop and I realized how severely propagandized it was about World War II. That's, again, not to say that I'm saying the Nazis were good people, but it might also be something that Americans should know is that after the war had ended, BBC's documentary, The Savage Peace, we went after people who were not Nazis, we went after people who were not even Germans, they were just German speaking. We just went after these innocent civilians, lined up their children, shot them, ran over their legs for the crime of them speaking German, okay? That is wild, and it's an important thing for you to understand, because if that is how we behaved in peacetime, 12 million German-speaking civilians who were ethnically cleansed, if you find a single person that is trying to justify that by saying their stupid phrases that neocons say, well, you know, war is hell, shut up. Just
Yeah.
shut up right now, because just know that
I love that.
yeah.
I love that's my favorite argument though.
Well, you
War is
know,
hell.
when they've lost everything else, when they have no moral arguments, then they're just like, you're like, hey, this like 4-year-old got shot for no reason. They're like, war is hell.
No, actually,
that
I'm
just
quite
makes
comfortable.
Me wanna freaking...
I love that argument. It goes,
Oh.
okay, so war is hell. That's right. So I'm glad we've established that you are pro hell.
Yeah.
And I am anti-hell.
Yeah, I'm anti-hell.
So let's, yes.
That's
okay.
my problem.
So
and
there
they
we
make
go.
it seem like we're the monsters. And I'm like, it's important. And the amount of people that have reached out to me, it's so sad. Because think about this. This happened to people for the crime of speaking German. They had nothing to do with Nazis, didn't vote for, not even the majority of Germans voted for Adolf Hitler, obviously.
Right, right.
And I think it was like, what, 30%? And then he was like installed, essentially. But the point being is that you had these people who had lived on that land forever, ethnically cleansed, 12 million people. And when I saw it, how horrific what was done to them, because there was actually footage. And it's so shocking. And then I had people reaching out to me from Germany saying, like, thank you so much for covering this, because we're not even allowed to talk about it because then they passed speech laws. So if you said anything that stepped outside of the bounds of the World War II established narrative, right? Allies good always, no matter what, even after the war when we were ethnically, we let Stalin just go in there and rape a bunch of women.
Yeah, Stalin, the Soviet Union and the British Empire, the forces for good
in the
world.
That even makes sense. Like,
right,
objectively, I'm like, wait a second, Stalin, what are we talking about? These like mass murdering Christians. And I never even questioned that when I was growing up, because again, we've been so removed from our Christian faith, we don't even think about it, because who was doing the World War propaganda? Who was running the government? Edward Bernays. Edward Bernays, they established for the first time ever a propaganda arm in our government. And Edward Bernays was running the program to basically psychologically convince us to only go Nazi bad, Nazi bad, Nazi bad, inspiring us to sign up to kill some Nazis. We stopped seeing each other as Christians. We stopped seeing each other as like human beings. A part was like, you no longer need to think of German civilians, these Czechoslovakian civilians, as civilians anymore, because it's everything we do now is about killing Nazis. So what we did in Dresden, an objective war crime, and any person that says otherwise is a monster, and stop listening to them. Like incinerating Catholics on the eve of, they're running around and you've got ash on your forehead, like on the eve of Ash Wednesday, they incinerated Catholics, like a sick joke, right? And you look at that and all through the day of Ash Wednesday, and you have people that will try to justify that. Like Dresden was not a city that needed to be firebombed at all. So when you look at that and you hear people say that, and still today we carry that same propaganda, Nazi bad, so no matter what we did, even if we had to rape and kill children and women, which we did, we allowed Stalin's men to do that, it's all acceptable because war is hell. Dave, I just wanted to let you know something. War is hell.
Oh, well, it's like, oh, I guess the argument's over then. Yeah, you're right. Well, then then it's okay, I guess. Well, there's by the way, you should, if you ever seen Hitler Lives?
No.
Okay, so Hitler Lives is a piece of American propaganda in the wake of World War II. It was written by Dr. Seuss. It is like straight up, like this is what the propaganda at the time was. And so in the immediate wake of World War II, one of the things that's interesting is that they do not mention the Holocaust or Jews. That doesn't even come up, because that was not even a part. The whole thing is about what an evil race the German people are, and how we better keep our eyes on them, because they already did this twice and they're gonna do this again. So keep your eyes on these like filthy Germans.
Well, that's what they don't like. Well, if you tell the story of what was said about the Germans leading up to this, they don't like this. So there was an entire book written about how they needed to ethnically cleanse the Germans before World War II. It was written by a man named Theodor Kaufmann. And I want to get the exact name of that book correctly, because God forbid this gets taken out of context and suddenly I'm like, you know, whatever. They're going to write the articles anyways. But what it was called, like,
you're screwed.
I'm screwed no matter what. So it's cool. I was actually happy because they went through everything so quickly on like the first month of my show. There's really nothing nothing less to say. They got to like accuse me of like touching a girl's butt 10 years ago now. Like they've thrown everything at me. They're like, you know.
Did you touch a girl's butt 10 years ago, Candace?
That will come out eventually. Give them 2 weeks and they'll line up the girls and Lisa, whatever her name is, Lisa Bloom will be representing them. That's all they got left now. So they kind of came at me with full bullets. I'm like, okay, I think I'm good now. They called me everything. Like
I'm gonna jump ship.
Self-hating
I'm gonna
black
Me Too
person.
you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be the
that's
first
all that's
guy
left.
to come on here.
It was called
Candace created a hostile environment for me.
Germany Must Perish. It was a 104-page book written by Theodor Kaufmann, which he self-published in 1941 in the United States. So nobody talks about like that. And I'm not, by the way, again, just to be clear here, I am not alleging that the Nazis were good, but I'm saying that we are told such a small snippet of what happened leading up to it. It was just like, you know.
Well, so Pat Buchanan's thesis in his book is essentially that the Holocaust was...
Wait, hold on. I want to pause before you tell me about his thesis because I want to read this thing.
Sure.
Because I just saw it. The book advocated genocide through the sterilization of all Germans and territorial dismemberment of Germany, believing that this would achieve world peace. Published in the United States in 1941. So I'm just saying, like, if you're a German civilian reading that might have been interesting to you, like leading up to, like whatever.
Well,
but,
sure.
Go ahead, because I want you to hear about Buchanan's
Pat
thesis.
Buchanan, who, by the way, like if he's lost, unlike the younger generation, like everybody should go read Pat Buchanan. I mean, Pat Buchanan is just like the most brilliant conservative thinker of, or at least up there, of the 20th and 21st century. I mean, he was truly like the precursor to Donald Trump, but so, you know, without the pizzazz and the wealth and the brashness, but with like so much knowledge of history, and his books are fantastic. I mean, all of his books are great. But essentially his thesis on World War II, and by the way, if you look at the title, it's Churchill, Hitler, and the Unnecessary War, and unnecessary war is in quotes, because that was a Churchill quote. It was what Churchill referred to the war as after the war. But his argument essentially was that, look, the Holocaust was a war crime, and that this happened in the context of a war. And if you could have avoided the war, you could have avoided the genocide. So his whole argument is that it's not like Nazis good. It's like, no, they're very bad. But his argument is that there were so many off-ramps to leading up to this conflict. And essentially that what the real battle came down to over, right, was after Czechoslovakia, was that they wanted Danzig. That they wanted this German-speaking town in Poland, which had historically been part of Germany. And that essentially we were like, no, we won't get, because we learned our lesson, you know, with the appeasement, so we're going to be tough and we'll go to war over Poland. And that and then at the end of the war, Poland's handed to the commies.
Right.
Who ruled over them for another, 6 decades or whatever, or whatever it was after that, another several decades. And then, 4 decades after. So, or 5, whatever. So the point is that it's like, we could have, there were so many options where we could have avoided this whole thing. And look, maybe you disagree with his thesis on the book or whatever, but to just think about World War II as the worst thing that ever happened, and the only thing we're allowed to do in hindsight is celebrate it.
Right.
And how great it was.
It's sick.
Instead
it's totally
of thinking
sick.
of like, oh my God, the only thing you should be thinking is, how could we have possibly avoided this? How could we possibly avoid this going forward?
That would be allowing us to objectively study it. And that's part of the reason, like I said, they hate me right now, because I'm going, no, guys, this is an incredibly important moment. Like, World War II did change everything. It changed everything in the entire world. And I don't think for the better, by the way. So I'm not saying that it's not a good thing that America won. I'm saying that when you look at America today and we realize, like, has America objectively gotten better since World War II?
Yeah.
Like, we've gone into all of these alliances overseas, things that have been problematic, right? Like what NATO is doing now, it's all about, oh well, World War II. They always go back to this World War II, and that's why we're doing this, and that. And NATO's got to protect the borders. It's like, what are you talking about? Like you're totally encroaching into Putin's territory while accusing him of encroaching into yours. It's a madness, honestly. It's almost like psychopathic.
Well, look, even if I'm wrong about everything I just said about World War II, like let's just say the official narrative is 100% correct. It goes, it's still only one lesson from history.
And are we allowed to
that's
talk
supposed to
about
apply to every other. The only lesson in history is like when appeasement went wrong. Like, so you're saying, has aggression never gone wrong?
Right.
Has like starting a war never gone wrong? In the last 20 years, I could give you quite a few examples of it.